Welcome to another training video from XMPRO. Today we will be looking at the tabs control and how to use it in App Designer. So as you can see, I have a blank page here, and under layout controls, there's a control called tabs. I can drag that across if I want to use it, and that will give me a control where, as the name suggests, I will have the option to create multiple tabs, and then each tab can have a content unique to that tab. When I drag it, you will notice that it has one tab and the placeholder where the content for that tab needs to go. I can very quickly add more tabs by clicking on the header and then clicking the plus button. That gives me another tab. Now, when I click on the header, I have a few options to configure its appearance with. First, of course, is if I want to change its text or the title that it is displaying. For example, I can call it summary. I can also choose an icon for it out of the preset icons that are available, which can be anything. And then for the second tab, I can do the same stuff. So that gives me two unique tabs. Now each tab has a contents area. As you can see, when I hover over it, it says summary content. And over there I can add the content for that tab. Let's say I want to display a quick gauge over here. And the details one, maybe I want to display a grid. One more option that I have is if I click on the tabs control itself, which is over there, I can either go to layers and then find it and select it, or I can click on the header and then when I click the arrow above, it gives me the same tabs control. I can then look at the config options for the tabs control as a whole, and there I have some options like tooltip. I can also choose which index or tab index should be selected when the page loads. 0 is the first, 1 would be the second one. Visible or invisible is basically if you want to hide the control. In behavior, we just have an option if you want to disable the control altogether. So I'll save this much and launch the app, and we can see what it means. So as you can see, I have two tabs. The first tab is displaying the gauge that I put in, and the next tab is displaying a grid, but of course we did not map that grid to anything, so it says no data. Now one last thing we can do with the tab control is that instead of displaying static tabs, we can bind the control itself. So I'll choose the tabs control, and in block property you'll see I have a data source option. What that allows me to do is that I can choose a data source, and then whatever content or header template I design over here will be replicated on runtime for every data item that is received from the data source. So you can design one tab, but on the runtime you will see a tab for every row or every item returned by your data source. Now this option is very useful if you want to create a bit of a template. So if I click on the header now, you'll see I can, instead of giving it a static title, I can give it a dynamic title and choose an item which is coming from my data source, like name. So what will now happen is that for every row that is returned, its name will be, a tab will be added for it, and the name of that item will be displayed for each tab header. Then in the content area, I can define some template. For example, I put a field set and then I put, for example, a text control. You will see that it will let me bind its value to a dynamic value that is coming from the data source. And that will then display the health score for the row or the data item that this tab is representing. And now when the page loads, you will notice that it has loaded a tab for every row or data item that it received from the data source. The headers reflect that, and then each one of them has content based on that row. So that's how you use a tab control in App Designer. Thank you so much for watching.